Okay, so this is a concept video that I've thought of making because I think it's very interesting. With the combination of the geographical composition of Skyrim, as well as its past history of wars and conquests, I thought it would be an interesting idea to make a video like this. Now, we're not going to be talking about the lore for this series of videos, we're just going to be analyzing its location and whether or not it's worth attacking. Imagine yourself as a warlord going on a conquest of Skyrim. You have done your research on the lands and are looking to see how you would determine the best course of action when it comes to taking over holds and cities. Before I start, I just want to say that I have not studied battle tactics at an educational level of any form, nor am I some expert level historian when it comes to warfare. Everything I am saying and referencing is simply from the knowledge that I have from watching war scenes in movies, documentaries, other videos that are better than analyzing warfare at a technical level, and simply thoughts that have entered my mind as I have written this lore script. If any of you have any ideas or thoughts of your own that I did not talk about during this video, let me know in the comment section below. I want to hear your thoughts on a concept such as this. Also, if you like this kind of video and want me to do similar videos for other cities, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more. The goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so it would be great and appreciated if we can hit this goal. So, let's address this question. Is Morthal worth conquering and defending? Well, the easiest and simplest answer would really be no, but I don't think the answer is that easy to conclude. Morthal is obviously not the richest city, nor is it the most popular in Skyrim, but with its main source of income being the lumber mill, as well as the inn that most adventurers would stop by during their travels. Morthal is located just southeast of Solitude, which also happens to be the closest city to it. If a merchant or traveler was looking to make their way east, for example towards Windhelm, then they would need to go through the Hjalmarch, in which case they would need to stop by Morthal, as they would need to stock up on supplies before continuing east, which is covered in snow and mountains. Of course, there are alternate routes that you can take, but if we are talking about the shortest amount of time it would take to get to a certain place, Morthal would probably be the way to go. From a geographical standpoint, Morthal is actually decently defended, with the marsh to its north and northwest, and mountains to the east and the south, along with Solitude to the northwest if it requires reinforcements. When we also think about dungeons and lairs nearby, there are a few crypts that are guarded by Draugr and other types of creatures that can serve as indirect defenses to the city. Unfortunately, it also has the adverse effect as many people tend to stay away from Morthal because of the surrounding dangers. But in times of war, it can definitely help to deter enemy forces from advancing, especially with Morthal suffering from a vampire takeover during the events of Skyrim. Something to also consider about a concept such as this is what kind of strategy would one apply in order to invade and take over Morthal. The most direct way would be to marshal a large force and simply march to the city, but I actually think that this would not be the best idea. Considering its geographical composition, marching through the marsh or the mountains would not be a good idea for a large army, and it can be easy for the defenders to pick them off in large numbers before they reach the city. The only place they could possibly march a large force through would be through the southwest, but for that to happen, they would have needed to conquer Whiterun, as it does control Whiterun Hold, which is what they would be marching through to get to Morthal, unless they want to risk being surrounded by armies from both Whiterun and Morthal. Of course, another strategy they could apply is one sort of like espionage or sneaking in soldiers disguised as merchants or citizens, then that would be a completely different story, as you can invade the city from within. Considering that this strategy was attempted by vampires during the quest Laid to Rest, which happens to be the very first lore video I covered on this channel, and was nearly successful, one can apply this strategy and probably see more success with it while having less casualties. Since Morthal does not have walls, it would not require a very large force to conquer this hold. That is, considering they can get past its natural defenses. Now, if I was a warlord looking to conquer and probably rule over Skyrim, would Morthal be worth defending? Well, considering its natural surroundings, I would say yes, and honestly, even though some have seen Morthal to be quite a gloomy city in the lands of Skyrim, there are still some benefits to it. Morthal is overlooked by Solitude, which is one of Skyrim's richest cities, considering it is the capital of Skyrim and the base of the Empire. Morthal could serve as a sort of outpost city to Solitude in case of any impending attacks, as well as sending reinforcements through the west, the weakest point in Morthal's surroundings. As I also mentioned earlier, it is a good place to stop by as merchants and travelers venture east to other holds in Skyrim, as it is the last place that they would stop by before they would have to endure treacherous snow and mountains, hence why the inn at Morthal has been a source of income. While Morthal is also near a river, the banks are too narrow for merchant ships to pass by, so it is unlikely that they would do any trade via ports, unless they used a port near Solitude. So, would Morthal be worth conquering? Well, if you were looking to conquer Skyrim, you would definitely want Morthal to be taken over, but I would probably not consider it as the first place to attack because of its location. In addition, I wouldn't even be bothering to field cavalry into this battle, as they would simply be slowed down by the surrounding environment of the city. This would be more likely infantry and archer attacks if such an event were to happen, as well as probably some saboteurs. Due to the west being the weakest point to field an army to attack, one would have to take over Whiterun or Solitude before allocating more resources to Morthal. Granted, it doesn't field a large army, so you wouldn't require that many soldiers to conquer it in the first place. It might be one of those side quests one can undertake if there was a massive storyline where the Dragonborn suddenly embarks on a quest for the entirety of Skyrim. Now that would be quite the storyline. Looking at it from a defensive standpoint, if I was in charge of defending this hold, I would most certainly take advantage of the defensive surroundings of the city. Considering its weakest point is in the west, I would field a small force as well as some scouts and traps to dwindle their numbers. This is of course assuming that Solitude is not aiding us right away or is conquered by this point. Otherwise, the west is still a good defensive asset for Morthal, as it has access to stronger and more Imperial troops from the Blue Palace. The idea really is to make sure that if Morthal does indeed get conquered, then we would have an escape route through to Solitude. This is of course, once again assuming that it doesn't get taken over, in which case the women and children through to the mountain passes, which is a more treacherous journey.
Send word for the women and children to make for the mountain pass and barricade the end.
But I wouldn't say I would abandon Morthal that quickly as a defender, but the goal of this kind of quest though would be to dwindle down the numbers as much as possible, because Morthal is not a walled city. So having every soldier within the city itself would be a bad idea. This would be more of a defense that certainly takes place in nature as opposed to the city streets. While this concept I think will be an interesting one as we go through the holds, I decided to go through a city first that isn't seen as super important compared to some of the other holds we will definitely be covering and will likely be longer than this one. If you enjoyed this video and want to see me assess other cities in terms of their defendability and if they are worth conquering, let me know in the comment section below and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed and want to see more Elder Scrolls content. Also, consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind if you don't like my content anymore. Anyway, that will do it for me this time around. This is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all again soon.